All right, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to Tomboy Official. I've got to do a sound test this morning. We're going to be talking about gender identity and body image. All right, so my sound test technically passed my my standards of yes, okay. We're recording. Just want to put a trigger warning on this one though, for anybody who's sensitive to topics about body image or thinks or feels like it's a triggering thing or not in a mindset or headspace to be able to really be able to actually feel like it's not going to make them feel worse or mess up their day or anything. Just putting a warning on that because I know it is something that comes up for people. But yeah, I'm recording from my laptop for once because I have my iPhone queued up to this World Cup match, the third place World Cup match for 2022, Croatia, Morocco. And as I was spending the first 10 or so minutes trying to get my computer up and, well, I don't need to do much to get it up and running, but I just open it. I never really turned it off. But I was trying to see if I would be able to record through my Bluetooth headphones because I don't have an adapter for my headphones to my laptop for the lightning cable. I have the opposite way. I have the headphone jack to lightning cable adapter. But yeah, I have these Skull Candy headphones that I got from a gym in San Diego. You know how you have one of those days where you're like all pumped up and ready and you're like, I finally made it and like I'm gonna spend like a while at the gym. And I had like a whole plan. I can't remember if I was gonna watch something or listen to something, but I had a whole plan of what I was gonna kind of tune into, which was my main motivation for getting to the gym that day. And I had not had my headphones with me. So I just bought new ones that I told myself I was gonna just keep in my gym bag. I don't know what I feel about these, but I use them from time to time. Lately, I've been doing some yoga while listening to my phone, like either podcasts or like if it's a video, like a training video, I'll have like the, it's kind of like a headset, but basically it's just like one cable that has the earbuds on either side of the end of the wiring. And then it has two kind of pieces of plastic. One has all the like everything you need on there. It has the charge port, it has the off on pairing button, and then the volume buttons. And I think on the back of that there's a microphone as well. So I was wanting to test it out, but I've never used it outside of my iPhone, and I couldn't pair it to my laptop. Apparently something else is trying to pair to my laptop, but I was like, I'll just record straight into the mic because it seems like it's gonna sound fine. Yeah, I don't know what the other plastic piece is for, but I'm guessing it's for uh there's probably like a little board or in there or something that helps with the Bluetooth connection. I'm gonna assume that that's what's in there, but I don't really know. So I'm up as usual, having my Soylent shake. Um, Woke up pretty early. Um, had a lot of reflection Friday on my PTO. A lot of um, yeah, just basically kind of um, trying to work with my mindset for the most part, and kind of tuning into some seminar type things to kind of help with that. Um, like I came across a cool YouTube channel. There are two that I like lately that have nothing to do with really queer representation. I mean, maybe there are queer people in there, but I don't really know. Like to my knowledge, they don't really speak about it. Um, One of the YouTube channels is called Goku Pump. The other one is called Nat Hearn. I don't know if it's Nat or Nate. I think it's Nat. Nat. I don't know. So basically, Goku Pump is, I don't know how many people, like three or four guys, um, African American black guys, who are kind of just really fit, like built. Um, and they talk a lot about, you know, like the videos I was watching were about calisthenics. A lot of their videos, they're at the gym or park, and they're doing whatever the exercise says on the video. There's like a variety of things. And I've watched a few a couple days ago, but I think the ones I was watching were the calisthenics, like body weight exercises. Um, and then Nat Hearn, I came across his shorts um, on YouTube, and then just kind of kept following his content. I kind of wish it was a little more like longer form. He's a karate guy, and he like I'm kind of into like MMA and like just martial arts in general. So I've kind of found that like anytime that I have a lot of difficulty with like exercising, that's kind of like a good go to because I kind of know that I like it. Um, and so, it's good cardio, good everything. And then there's, a lot of different stretching or yoga or different kind of like strength exercises to do to be able to like do the actual like forms. But I'm not like formally trained or anything. I'm just familiar with being around people that are like really into martial arts. And so yeah, what was that sound? So yeah, basically I have like been kind of, well, this morning I've been watching soccer. So if I seem a little distracted, and you probably heard it in the very first like bit of the intro clip, that's why I wanted to record into my laptop, is so I could watch the soccer game on my phone, because I didn't want to wait till like 9 o'clock to record, because I'm up now. I got up probably a little bit before 6 a.m. I think it was like 5:50 something when I actually looked at the clock, and I was like, I might go back to sleep, but it's early enough. It's late enough for me to wake up, especially because like I'm not doing anything. Like I'm gonna get in a workout today, but otherwise I'm not really doing anything else. I'm considering, with my food choices, to be getting more stuff out in our garden. Like, like my parents are practically like not this isn't like what they do for work or anything, but hobby wise, practically I would label them as like, small time city farmers. Like my dad is very knowledgeable about like farm work, and He's like set up a couple farms with the assistance of some brothers of his. Set up a couple farms in Zimbabwe. He knows, he's knowledgeable about working land and things like that, um, and rural kind of, areas, and growing, food, like sustainable food. He's very knowledgeable about those types of things. Um, I've never really picked his brain about it. That's kind of what him and my mom kind of do as their kind of thing. So I kind of have learned to kind of stay away from it. Um, Mainly because it's their thing. And when I was growing up as a kid, whenever they were out there doing yard work, if I would like go out and like be like, oh, I'm bored, or like whatever kind of thing, I'd end up doing like yard work kind of chores, and like, they'd always be like doing a little landscaping. So I'd be like tilling soil and freaking like moving bricks. Like my dad would get like bricks, or like fertilizer or gravel or sawdust, chips, kind of things for whatever project they were doing. And he would get like a van load of stuff, and we'd have to like unload the van or whatever, So I kind of learned to just be like, all right, let me just let them do their thing. Otherwise, I'm going to end up spending my whole day, trimming the hedges, and, you know, weeding, and it's like, dude, I was just trying to go to the beach with my friends. Like, I wasn't trying to like do all this. But it's good, being out in the sun, being out in nature, being out in the dirt, and like it does something to you, or for you, both. It does something for you and to you that really helps you out. Like, even if it's not like a whole lot of manual labor that you're doing, just being connected with nature and touching the plants and the earth and all that stuff. Like like when you live in a city, if you get an opportunity to do something like that, it really works wonders for your health. Um, just having a lot of time outside, like multiple hours a day. Because for most of us, that's not, most of us city dwellers don't spend probably even 1 hour or 2 hours outside if you don't count the driving. Most of us stay indoors, with work and stuff too. So I've kind of noticed that, at least in the city, like in like LA, like I feel like New York and some other places are different, but LA is like you're indoors, which is funny because it's got beautiful weather year round. I'm probably gonna hit the beach again today. I don't know what time. Maybe a little after this game. Um, I don't really like to go when there's a lot of people though. But this time of year, it's like December, and it's freezing, and nobody really wants to be just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to the beach, I'm one of those people though. I don't really care. I'm like, whatever. It's temporary cold. I live right there. Like, I can just get in the car and warm back up. Like, keep a towel or whatever, like sweater, blanket, whatever you need to keep in the car, and then the heater works in there. So, um, yeah, when I have time in the mornings, I'm a bit rambly, guys. You know that by now. But yeah, the Soylent Shake, I didn't put it in the fridge the night before. I thought I had two in the fridge, unless it's like stuck behind a KFC bucket of chicken or something. Um, okay, so I don't know if I can break things into categories, but yeah, mostly what I've been working on lately is like the mindset aspect of things. And so through what I learned, um, I guess yesterday technically, because this is what yesterday, what I was doing yesterday evening was, tuning in to some kind of, I'm not going to explain basically what it was, but um, basically my, I was able to kind of realize, okay, there was, I don't, let me see. So there's one thing that I realized um, by this reflection exercise that was part of what I was learning from. Um, Basically, uh, how do I put this? So I was basically focused on different things. So one thing was body tension, like physical body tension. So one thing about the physical body tension that I noticed is that, on occasion, like I still get this kind of weird kind of discomfort in a certain area, and it's kind of, I interpret that as like stress or anxiety, but I don't think that's it might be what it is, but I don't really think that's what it is. It's kind of like um I don't know, it's a way of storing some kind of energy that I think is related to, it's not really related to worry necessarily. It's kind of related to like burdens. Like I would say just like, when there's a lot of stuff pending, that it's like, okay, I know I need to work on this or do better on this or like whatever. So if I'm thinking about things like, finishing this class and like laying out kind of the schedule of what I need to do for this week, and what I need to do for like, you know, like eating better or sleeping better or whatever, like all the basic stuff, um, just kind of having like um, a burden of thinking that, okay, I don't want my mindset to be too um, uh, I don't want my mindset to be too like, I don't even know what the word is. Like I just don't want it to be too negative, really, and just kind of worrying about like future things that I need to do immediately in the next few days or same day or next day or whatever. Just thinking about future things that I need to do, but worrying that I'm not going to have the energy to do it. Um like I do notice that I do have a lot of thinking that tends to be very, I wouldn't even really call it black or white, but it's kind of along those lines of like, not giving enough like wiggle room for things. So say for example, yeah, it's the holidays and there might be someone that I might have to interact with that I don't want to because it's the holidays. We might have to, be around each other. And instead of saying things like, okay, this type of person in my life, I don't ever want to talk to them again. So how am I going to like manage this holiday with this one person who I never want to talk? Instead of having like that never attitude, saying, this is just for me, like, but just saying like, okay, like I'll play it by ear, take it day by day. I can still have this person in the house or be in that person's house without like, I can play it by ear the day that I have to deal with them, instead of setting a hard fast rule, half a month in advance, that I don't want to ever talk to anybody like that. So that kind of thing is kind of like, okay, like that's a bit of a burden for me to put on myself, to be just like, all right, just like never, like how am I going to get to the never, how am I going to keep this never mentality up, like I'm not saying that people should like go back on their boundaries that they set, or and things like that, but it's like I think sometimes there is like a rigidity to things too. So that's one thing. I gotta drink this stupid smoothie thing. um it's not getting warm because it was never cold, so yeah, I tuned into this game, and while I was setting everything up, Croatia scored a goal, then Morocco scored a goal. So it's been a good game so far. Um, but yeah, that was like one thing with mindset. And then kind of like working with like uh, the negativity of things. Um, uh, just like somewhere along the line, my head just kind of got pretty skeptical of most things. And so just kind of keeping that in check, because it's something that, I tend to know is happening in the background of my mind, but I just kind of avoid it. But it does kind of keep me from, doing what I need to do on the day to day. Um, like, for example, yesterday, like, I kind of knew exactly what I needed to eat from the time I woke up. I was like, okay, I got this Soylent shake, then I'm going to have lunch. I can't remember what I was going to have for lunch. Oh yeah, because I had that like leftover omelet from this diner. It was like an omelet that was stuffed with like so many different types of veggies, like tons of veggies. It had like mushrooms and peppers and cilantro and tomatoes and like spinach and just it was like packed. Like it was packed with so much stuff. Like it looked like, like when you have a burger, like it almost looked like a burger spilling out of like of it was like probably like an inch thick of vegetables all the way through that thing. It wasn't really mixed into the egg. It was like the egg was like folded over, so you could just see all the vegetables in there. And like I think I broke that omelet up into thirds, so that would have been the end of that omelet. Um, that's kind of how I hack my food delivery expenses. Is I kind of buy lately. I've been doing this, kind of buying them as the entree, but then I have other stuff in the house too. And so it's like instead of eating one meal that's $25, that's like 2,000 calories or something, breaking it up into like three pieces, it's like a meal sized portion if you add like toast or a little bit of like oats or whatever, just adding a little extra to it on the side and making it like a full meal with just a third of the omelet. It's like that thing lasted me like 3 days versus like one meal for like $25. It was like three meals for $25. So it's like, because usually takeout food also is so high in calories, usually, unless it's like your only meal of the day or like you're only eating like one or two meals. Usually, most of those meals are going to be way too huge um, for what you need, even if they are healthy. But I kind of use it as a weird way of like getting in some healthier food options because I'm like, okay, like I know at least for 3 days I have like a healthier breakfast, or for 3 days I have a healthier lunch, or whatever it is. Um, when I know I'm not going to cook something sometimes. Um, and so, yeah, that's one thing, but basically with the mindset and like the eating, like the situation that happened, like I had the shake, and then, my mom is kind of up earlier, like later than me. And so, cause she's up way late, like she stays up to like 2, 3 in the morning, and then she'll start her day probably around 9 or 10. As far as the eating part, like she's up, I think she's up before 8. Like she does a lot of Bible readings and things like that. She's up in the mornings. And basically, I, saw, that she texted me that she had cooked, those little frozen mini quiches that you throw in the oven. And so she had a bunch of those that she had cooked. And I was like, well, maybe I'll have those with the omelet for lunch. And, I did some yoga and then had that omelet, you know, with some of those little mini quiches. But that wasn't really in the plan. I was actually going to have something different with the omelet. I think I was going to have some of the overnight oats that I had, but I was like, okay, the mini quiches aren't like a terrible thing. But also my folks shop and buy snacks, and so we have a box full of freaking like cookies of like the Nutter Butters, the Chips Ahoy, the Oreos. We have a box full of chips, like those snack size chips. So like Doritos, Cheetos, that kind of thing. Um, we now have a box full of Little Debbie's, a fridge full of leftover KFC because we ended up having KFC for dinner. So I ended up having KFC for dinner last night, and I was like, that was not in the plan either. And so just kind of like following the actual plan, because health wise, I eat a lot healthier than my parents, but my siblings eat a lot healthier than I do. But my folks don't eat that healthy at all. They know how they can, but they don't. And there was a point when they were like practicing vegetarian eating sometime this year, and then I don't know what happened to that. I think that stopped because you know during Thanksgiving week or so, we had all kinds of meat: turkey, goat, chicken, like piling it on. Um, and so yeah, like the mindset part is usually one of the harder parts to address, but I do notice, the negative thinking about things or just the decisions that get made kind of stem from, not really thinking things through too much, just being like, oh, somebody sent me a text that KFC is on the way. And then I'm like, okay. And it's like, yeah, it's one thing to eat KFC. I probably didn't eat as much as I ate. I mean, I ate a whole plate full. I had a leg, a wing, a biscuit, a little bit of mashed potatoes, a little bit of coleslaw, but none of the items on that menu are healthy. And so, I mean, their chicken is terrible for you. I don't even know what kind of chickens they actually. I mean, their quality meat is like, I don't. It's questionable. Like, are those even real animals? Like, the quality of the meat of KFC chicken is like, I don't even know how it's legal to even eat that, but it is. Thank you, America. Um, yeah, all those chips, all those cookies, all that kind of stuff, like it really adds up. Um, and so even if it seems like it's like, in my head I was like I had the healthy food that I was going to eat for Friday just kind of planned out cuz I knew what I had already kind of like stuff in the fridge and stuff, but I ended up taking some other route and having KFC and having all this other stuff. And I mean, one way to maybe address fast food is if you're gonna have fast food, having healthy choices to supplement. So it's one thing to eat a whole meal of KFC, it's another thing to kind of break it into like portions. Like, yeah, maybe it's not like ultra healthy to have like part of your meal being KFC, but it's like, I could have had like a whole bunch of. Oh, did they score again? Dang, Croatia. So yeah, I could have had a whole bunch of um like, I don't know, we have a bunch of like veggies. I could have had some spinach, I could have had some blueberries, I could have had some uh there are a lot of healthy options of things that I could have had to supplement what I needed to eat for the rest of the evening, and not have all KFC. I could have had like partial or half KFC, you know what I mean? Um So that's one way to do it. It's just not eating the whole meal as like one whole, like, this is all I'm gonna get. I could have had like the chicken and then just like a whole bunch of different vegetable and fruit options on the side, and none of the carbs, or if I was going to have the carbs, just like none of the protein, like something like that. That's kind of like, it kind of adds up. Um, um, it kind of supplements a little bit better than eating like a whole plate full of something. But then again, if it's like, okay, if I'm considering that like a cheat day, if I'm having like a complete cheat day or something, not like too overboard, but that would be an example of like a cheat day, honestly. And so outside of cheat days, or days of having food where I need to finish the shake. I keep talking and forgetting that I'm trying to drink this thing. But it's now, I was waiting till a little later in the morning because I don't want to push to be having food earlier and earlier and earlier to a point where I'm like eating so early that it's like, I'm eating breakfast at like sunrise. Like this time of year the sun comes out kind of early and I'm up. Um but yeah. Um so the delays are me drinking this thing. I'm just going to finish this up. Sorry, I'm almost done with this stupid thing. Mm, done. All right. So, yeah, I think that's something to consider. Um, but yeah, planning things out in advance. I think planning in advance is one of the best ways. Mm, mm. And then focusing on the basics. Sleep needs to be right. You got to get the exercise every day. Unless it's like a recovering kind of day. I don't really know. I think it's to the individual what they're gonna need. Like there are standards for, what people say, like, 30 minutes of cardio 5 times a week, things like that. But I know that there are variations depending on like what your goals actually are. But definitely the eating is a big one. Um, that's something that I noticed. That it doesn't matter how much I work out. If I'm eating crappy food, I'll notice within maybe like a week how things feel different. But, I also try to reflect on the past week. So I think about this last week and, I started realizing I was like, I had a crazy week. Like, you know, I was off Monday. Um, I was, working really hard on well, let me see. What did I do? Um, I think it was last Friday. I was working really hard on my class. Then throughout the weekend, I honestly don't remember what I did at this point. And then Monday I was off. I remember Sunday I did some intensive yoga. I was doing, I think, a couple like capoeira workouts the 2 days before that, and then I did some really intense yoga on Sunday, and I was like, man, those downward dogs were killing me, and I didn't notice it too much. Um, but then when I went to, um, I had Monday off. I remember it was raining, and I remember being, suddenly, all of a sudden, just like sore. Like I'm not used to like, you know, getting like sorenesses like that anymore. Cuz I've been taking my workouts so easy because last year I got injured so many times, but I hadn't felt that kind of soreness. It didn't feel the same. It didn't feel like the normal muscle soreness, but I do think it was also the stress of like the burden of like, okay, I'm gonna like have all this weight on me for a little bit about like quitting this job. So there was a kind of a combination of things going on that I think contributed to me having some really severe like shoulder pain. Like my shoulder blades and my shoulders were in a lot of pain on Monday. And I remember taking some hemp gummies, not CBD, they're just hemp seed oil gummies. They're good for inflammation. And I took some of those and I just knocked out. I fell asleep. And I think the night before that, maybe I didn't sleep that well. I can't remember. I can't remember actually. But I do remember, yeah, I do remember because it was raining. And so I didn't sleep well because of the rain, because it was late and early in the morning, like late at night and early in the morning. So it was kind of keeping me up. Um, and because I'm just not used to the sound. Like once I get used to the sound of rain, it doesn't really bother me. But that was probably the first time I remember it raining like in the night as loud as it did. Like we have a bunch of stuff. Like I said, my folks garden a lot, so they reuse a lot of stuff like plastic jugs and all kinds of stuff. So sometimes there's stuff out in the yard that's like plastic jugs or like a can of that they reuse for something, and then all that kind of stuff. When there's a storm, it'll be like blowing around in the wind, like on the cement patio, and there's like sounds of dripping on plastic bottles and like freaking cans rolling around, like on the cement, and you kind of just like hear them, and so it's like, yeah, there's rain, but then there's all that going on inside that out in the yard, and it just keeps waking me up because there's all these like weird sounds that come out until like we kind of like notice it, and then eventually go out there and like put it somewhere where it will stop making noise. um but it was so late at night and then so early in the morning we didn't really do that. So yeah, I just basically was being woken up over and over again because of the storm. And then yeah, like that Sunday I did do the yoga though, and it was probably my first like great yoga routine. I was like, okay, the workouts I did the days before, I can actually manage this routine. So I pushed through to do the whole thing as like to my best ability. And I was noticing, I was like, dude, the downward dogs are my weakness. And, I kind of didn't think much of it until Monday. I was like freaking stressed and tired and sore. Um, all of the combination, and then it took a couple days during the week to recover from that. And I'd been having some sinus issue since that other day when I went out to that gay bar. And so I think since that Wednesday or Thursday, I'd started having some weird sinus issue that I kind of just ignored, some sinus and throat issue that I think kind of flared up again on that like Monday or Tuesday, because I remember ordering pho because I just felt like crap, and usually that makes me feel better. So I ordered pho and just ate it and fell asleep for like half of the afternoon of Monday, and then Tuesday I was like so disappointed that I wasted my whole Monday. And like one of my friends was right. It was like, you probably really needed the rest, and I'm like, yeah, I probably did. But I kind of hate that. I hate having days off where I just like sleep. But it was raining anyway, so it's not like I could have gone anywhere. I wouldn't have gone anywhere. I was just like in the house. But yeah, then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday hit, and work on Tuesday. I was like, I might resign because I don't really know. Because I think this is the time when I'm gonna do that. I had like a seminar, and it kind of pumped me up to kind of get my head in the right space. And with what this next job move is. And, you know, I don't remember, I think it was Wednesday I put in my resignation information. And then Thursday I started actually feeling quite a bit better. But I think that was my last day working for that week because I took Friday off. And so that was yesterday. Friday I was off. So I think a lot of the poor choices I made Friday with the eating were kind of just built up from all the other days, all the stress of the other days of just trying to like manage things those other days. Like I notice when I keep a pretty tight lid on things for a lot of time during the times when I'm pretty stressed, and when I have like a break, I tend to maybe not make the absolute best of decisions as far as like health goals, but it's not like so bad that I'm gonna like, fall over or anything. But we also did have like Papa John's pizza sometime during the week, and like just things like that where I'm just like, I'm, grateful that my folks want to buy all this food, because I'm not paying for any of it. They just buy a whole bunch of food. So I'm like, well, there's a bunch of food in the fridge. And so it's basically me and my mom eating like a pizza or eating a bucket of chicken and some sides and stuff like that. And it takes multiple days. So it's like now I've got all this junk food in the fridge that's going to take multiple days to eat. And then it's like, it's kind of hard to not touch it when it's there. It's like, okay, if there's a bucket of chicken, I'm going to get a piece. Um, if there's, some other stuff, I basically will get more of it multiple days. So that's kind of like one thing that I'm kind of not too into is the snacks and the stuff that is readily available. It's just junk. Like it's not really healthy food. Um, and then we've got a whole garden full of stuff out there that's like just fresh grown vegetables and some fruits and things. And so, yeah, I'm really gonna have to make decisions based on what I need to be eating and stick to those decisions, and not really because I pay attention to how much I'm kind of consuming. Like I'm paying attention to it. And so because I notice it, it's like, okay, it's one thing to do it one day. It's one thing to have one Friday of like one KFC meal, but then all the other meals are kind of on point. It's like, okay, that's one thing, but I can't be eating that again today. And then, if somebody decides they want to order a pizza again tonight or something, it's like, yeah, it's fun, but it's like, damn, I can't be eating like KFC and Papa John's every day. Like, it's not good. It's not good food. But if it's there, it's like I'm likely gonna eat it. In all honesty, um, and so just that kind of way of thinking about it, of kind of planning in advance, and then just noticing, like, okay, if I have some days that are pretty stressful days, I'm probably gonna within the next couple days be likely to kind of not really think things through, and just start eating whatever, doing whatever. But um, let me see. So I think like one way, this isn't really like a a good way to tell maybe necessarily, but one way that I can tell, like I gain muscle really quick, so that's one thing that's kind of really uh like a little bit can make me super lazy with like exercise, is because I know I can gain muscle really quick, and then once I gain muscle, the way that I want to, then all the other working out becomes easier and easier, and then I can push more and more because my muscle mass just increases pretty quickly. Um, just naturally, that's how my genetics are. And so I don't think that's like a good reason, but that's a true reason. Um, but dang, it's tomorrow's Argentina France game at 6 in the morning. Thought it was gonna be at 7. Uh, I don't want it to be at 6 in the morning. Like 7 is too early, but I was up before 6, and so I was like, screw it, I'll watch the game then. I wasn't gonna watch it though. Last night when I went to sleep, I was like, I'm just gonna sleep till like 9. I'm up though. I don't really care. Like I got up to adjust the heater because I was literally melting, and now I'm like, okay, like I'm good to go, you know. Um, like yeah. So I don't really know. Um, goodness. So I was thinking like, um, about um, like how to tell eating these gummies, how to tell what is um what how to tell kind of what is um I lost my train of thought. Oh, how to tell if things fit. Like how to tell like if you're gaining weight. Um I mean if you're not regularly weighing yourself, and I did start regularly weighing myself every Thursday. So my weight is pretty much staying the same. When I had COVID, obviously because I was only eating fruit, it I lost quite a bit of weight just within a week. Um, but that's not something I would recommend because it's not a smart idea to just not eat. Like you can't just eat just only fruit. I was only eating fruit. Um, and like berries, I wasn't eating like a well-rounded amount of fruits. I was eating like strawberries and blueberries and blackberries. It was summer, so all the berries were like in full effect. It was delicious, but it was the only thing that was delicious to me was fruit, and so that's the only thing I could eat was fruit. So that's the only thing I ate was fruit. Um, I um, yeah, like one common rule of thumb that people say is, how are your clothes fitting? How do your clothes fit? Now working from home, I've noticed one thing that if you're like me and when you're at home you're not wearing like the same type of stuff you'd wear out. So when I'm out I usually wear things that would have like belt loops. Like I hardly wear long pants, but if I do it's probably going to be chinos or like a certain type of jeans that's got like some soft materials in it. But usually I'm going to need a belt because I've got a bunch of stuff in my pockets. um and when I notice that I don't need a belt anymore, or when I notice that the pants don't even fit anymore, because my clothes, I buy them pretty, like, they're not always like super fitted. So that's one thing. Like, if I have fitted clothes that just don't fit, and yeah, I can blame the washer dryer situation all I want, but also our dryer, we don't even use our dryer hardly. We air dry our clothes these days, just hang them outside, or like we have a rack inside that we can like hang stuff on too. Like, cause I don't really like hanging out my underwear out in the yard for the neighbors to see it. And so usually that is inside, but we use the washing machine. And that usually doesn't shrink your clothes. Usually it's going to be the dryer that shrinks the clothes. So if my clothes are small, I know it's not the washer, it's me. Or, you know, Yeah, so I think wearing clothes where you know you need a belt, or where you know you know something's fitted, kind of wearing those types of clothes maybe a little more often kind of helps me to notice more than like just wearing sweats all the time. Wearing like those stretchy kind of like gym shorts, and like most of the time when I'm lounging around the house, I'm honestly not wearing anything. Like, if I'm in my room by myself, I've got underwear on and that's it. Like, and that's just because, I don't want to be sitting nude all over my furniture. So, I would probably just wear a towel, honestly. Like, I don't really need a lot of clothing. I don't like it. I've gotten used to not wearing it, and it actually, that's kind of weird to say, maybe, but like, I've kind of gotten used to certain times of my day not really having a lot of clothing on, and I've actually found it to be pretty comfortable. And you do way less laundry that way too, in all honesty, um, because you're not really using all your clothes. Like, you know, like if I don't need them, so it's kind of one of those things. Like, I don't really need. Ooh, is that a goal? I don't really need to be like scrimping and saving too much like that. Like, conserving clothing, situations. But it's like I don't really like shopping either, so I like to kind of maintain, my clothing quality to be kind of like um I kind of like to maintain the quality of my clothing to be kind of like not having holes in it and stuff, because that happens easily when you don't shop a lot. You're going to wear the same stuff all the time. Um, so yeah, so that's one thing. And then, yeah, if I notice that my underwear fit tighter than usual, that to me is the biggest sign, because most of my underwear are pretty snug. And if they feel more snug than the normal snug, that is when I'm like, okay, this is time, to start kicking in the high gear. So those are the things that kind of help me just at least maintain a certain level of keeping things on track. Is just like, if my underwear is too tight, or if my clothes that need belts no longer need belts, or if my clothes don't fit, and trying to wear the clothes that are more fitted more often. Because sometimes if you don't wear them for like 3 4 weeks, like, I'm working from home, it's not like I have like a lot of formal things I'm going to, so I might not go out too much at all, to a point where I need to put on jeans. And then if I do put on my jeans, and then I'm like, oh shoot, these are super tight, like, jeans are going to feel tighter than like elastic shorts, or sweatpants, or whatever. So that's one thing. But all of that kind of factors into body image. I know that was like the longest way around to kind of get to the point of talking about body image. Like, a lot of people, gender wise, your body is gonna naturally do what it's gonna naturally do. Like, I can't force myself to not have breasts, or, to not have periods, or to not have hips, like, I was born female, my body just naturally does those things. Um, and so even when it comes to, fitness related things, like, yeah, there are definitely areas that, can tone in different ways or whatever. But unless I do some kind of like hormones, or some kind of other uh, method of changing, something kind of more drastically, um, or even surgically, or plastic surgery, or anything like that, like, my body's basically just going to do what it's going to do naturally. And I'm not really so much concerned about all those things. Um, I just do find it a little, sometimes it can be a little challenging for my clothing styles because I know the style of clothing that I like to wear, and most male fit clothing is not really tailored easily to a female body, and especially like curvy female bodies. Like they don't make men's shirts for curvy female torsos. Like that's not really how that works. Same with the pants. They don't make them, thinking, oh, like there might be a guy that has like a waist, or like a bigger like butt area or something. Like usually these are like how they design women's clothing. They think about those things. So when you go up in women's clothing sizes, there will be these different maybe stretch features to the clothing that stretch in certain areas where women would be likely to gain weight and things like that versus um some other thing where it's like, oh, I'm wearing like men's like low rise, like tight fit Levi's or something. And it's like, yeah, if you've got a big waist, that's probably going to be, it's not impossible, but it's like you're going to be buying different sizes accordingly. And I don't really care what size people are. I'm just saying that's kind of the reality of it. But one way, kind of like, there's nothing really wrong with people's bodies, but it's just like sometimes people want a different image, or if you buy a certain cut clothing, you want it to fit a certain way. And one thing that I noticed, as a female, if I'm in a out of shape kind of condition, it's kind of harder to fit into certain types of clothing. Because if you buy them like a different size, like if you buy like a really big men's shirt, the shoulders are going to be like massively like, the line of where your shoulders would be, the seams for where would normally sit on your shoulders would be like way down near your biceps somewhere. And you can't really buy the um those snugger fit button downs, because then the middle part, if you have a tummy, like your middle part or your chest is just basically, you can't button the shirt, or if you can button it, but then if you sit down it might come off, or pop off your buttons or whatever. um and yeah, uh it's an issue that you can kind of get. But like I would say, don't get too down on it, because you can always make changes. It just might not happen like as absolute fast or as easily as would be ideal. I mean, I try not to worry too much about it, but sometimes I notice when it's like holidays and then you're meeting up with like people who haven't seen you in a while, and it's kind of like when you're going to a wedding or something, you don't want to be like, oh, like I'm all like flabby and like huge, compared to what it was last year. Like I don't think anybody like enjoys that experience too much. But also, there is this thing where they say like sometimes, your body is going to reflect kind of the image of how your mind is holding up. Not always, but excuse me, sometimes that's the case. And so, I mean, if that's the reality of things, that's just how it is. And you know, I wouldn't, I wouldn't really say um, that that's you know a bad thing. There's always room to be able to just start to do what you need to do. But yeah, really starting with that mindset piece is really going to be something that is going to be more of a game changer. Um, but yeah, this computer recording only lets me record 30 minutes at a time, and I don't want to restart another thing because then I'm going to have to upload. Um, So I think for now that's kind of all, but yeah, just find things that work for you and kind of learn what's not working and why. Um, that's probably the easiest place to start is try to figure out where the patterns are when you're not making the choices you need to make. Because I think all of us have those days or those times, but just knowing what is happening and once you know, you can kind of fix it. Um, you can kind of work with what you know. If you don't really learn about yourself, you're never gonna really know if you're just kind of winging it every day. But with that, thanks for listening.